Hi, this is Janice Hope. I'm the designer of the blanket for this year's 2021 Jimmy Bean's Wool Blanket Knit-Along. I just want to welcome you to the Knit-Along. I'm glad you're here. And I just wanted to make a quick film for you just to explain some things you might be thinking about as you start knitting. This is how your swatch, or your start I should say, should be coming out. It's kind of the shape of a shark fin. Should be more or less a square triangle this way. It won't look like this though as you're starting. If I pop the needle through, it'll probably look more like this as you work. You may be concerned about these ladders here. This does look quite concerning. The reason that I'm using the particular increase that I am, the M1T and M1A, is to actually get this slackness, because as you saw before, once we pull it out to the final shape, that extra slack gets pulled into this stitch, allowing the shape to stretch out the way it needs to, because this is actually quite long here for a single stitches rows. Yeah, so this is actually functional. This is okay. Don't worry about it. In the final blanket, it will sit like this and you won't notice this lathering. The other thing that you may be concerned about is this. This is the cast on right here, the 6-stitch cast on, and it sits weird. The idea with this is that at the end of the blanket, or now if you want, you can just use a yarn needle to just stitch this together. Like so. And then you'll have just a really beautifully straight edge with little to no effort. This is really simple. And then once you're done, you can just weave this tail in on the back side. You could also use a circular cast on right here to start with 6 stitches and then start working back and forth. But I really think this is easier and it looks pretty nice too. As you work, some of the things to just be aware of are that this here is just a knit column. It's purely decorative. There's nothing happening around here. This is also a knit column the same way, but this one is the one that has the increases beside it. And then you'll also be increasing along this side. And the combination of these increases and these ones is what's making our triangle. This is just going to be knit out continuously from these sides, and it'll keep on growing, as you can imagine from the finished blanket. Eventually, when you cast off, this will be the outer edge, and this side will be grafted to this side from another blanket. Unfortunately, that means it's not super easy to knit these together as you go, so they will need to be seamed in the end just to attach this cast off edge to this selvage edge here. As I mentioned before, the slack from the increases is getting pulled into this corner here, this diagonal corner. And if you take a look at this, you'll realize this is actually the same number of stitches as this is. So you can see the length difference, and that's why we need that extra slack in those increases, just to make it able to stretch that far. If this was worked more tightly, then that would be scrunched down and it would distort the shape. You could no longer make a square blanket. That needs to stretch out. I'm filming this in advance just with some of the questions that I anticipate you might have, but please let me know if you do have questions as you work, and I can possibly answer them by film or explain if there's any common issues that are coming up or things that people are wondering about the blanket.